Black Africans are different according to ancestral history because Africa is the original homeland of humanity and the foundation of human civilization. Over hundreds of thousands of years, African populations developed unique biological, cultural, and psychological traits shaped by long-term survival, environmental adaptation, and social evolution. Unlike many regions that experienced relatively recent population formation, Africa maintained continuous human settlement, allowing traditions, knowledge systems, and genetic diversity to grow without interruption. This deep timeline created strong ancestral memory, embedded in language, rituals, family structures, and community values. Ancestral history also explains why African societies emphasize collective identity, respect for elders, spiritual connection, and social responsibility. These values were necessary for survival in diverse and sometimes harsh environments. From deserts to rainforests, African communities learned cooperation, adaptability, and resilience. This historical continuity shaped mental strength, emotional intelligence, and cultural pride. When people understand ancestral history, they realize that Black African differences are not accidental, but the result of thousands of years of development, struggle, innovation, and cultural preservation. This perspective replaces stereotypes with historical awareness and scientific understanding. It highlights the importance of heritage in shaping modern identity, and explains why African communities still maintain strong cultural bonds. Despite globalization, ancestral history is not only about the past. It actively influences present behavior, social relationships, and worldview. By recognizing this ancestral foundation, people gain a deeper appreciation of African identity and the historical processes that shaped it. African identity formation is deeply connected to ancestral history, which shaped social values, family systems, and cultural traditions. For thousands of years, African societies developed around kinship networks, clans, and extended families that emphasized unity and mutual support. This structure created a strong sense of belonging and collective responsibility. Identity was not based only on individual achievement, but on community contribution and shared heritage. Ancestral lineage determined social roles, cultural duties, and moral values, guiding how individuals interacted with others. Oral traditions, naming practices, and initiation rituals reinforced ancestral memory and passed identity from one generation to another. These practices preserved cultural continuity even without written records. African identity also developed through environmental adaptation, as communities learned to survive in diverse climates. This survival experience shaped cultural expressions, belief systems, and daily lifestyles. Over time, ancestral history created psychological patterns of resilience, cooperation, and spiritual awareness. Even today, modern African identity reflects these historical foundations. Music, language, clothing, and social customs still carry ancestral influence. Understanding this process helps explain why African identity remains strong despite external pressures such as colonization and modernization. Ancestral history provides a framework that connects individuals to their past and gives meaning to cultural pride and social unity. Ancient African civilizations played a major role in shaping Black African heritage and cultural identity. Civilizations such as Kemet, Kush, Aksum, Mali, Songhai, and Great Zimbabwe developed advanced systems of governance, trade, education, and architecture. These societies created strong political structures and economic networks that connected Africa with other parts of the world. They also produced scientific knowledge in astronomy, medicine, agriculture, and engineering. This intellectual legacy influenced cultural development and social organization across the continent. Artistic expression, religious practices, and architectural designs from these civilizations continue to inspire modern African culture. The wealth and stability of these empires supported education and craftsmanship, allowing knowledge to be passed through generations. These civilizations also promoted trade routes that encouraged cultural exchange and technological innovation. Their historical achievements demonstrate Africa's long-standing contribution to global civilization. Understanding this heritage helps correct historical misconceptions and highlights Africa's role as a center of ancient knowledge and cultural leadership. Black Africans possess the highest level of genetic diversity in the world, which reflects Africa's role as the birthplace of humanity. Over long evolutionary periods, African populations adapted to different environments, leading to a wide range of physical traits and biological strengths. This diversity contributed to strong immune systems, environmental adaptability, and genetic resilience. Migration within the continent created genetic mixing that increased variation and survival potential. Scientific research confirms that many genetic traits found globally originated in Africa before spreading to other regions. This evolutionary foundation explains why African populations show greater biological variation than populations elsewhere. Genetic ancestry also reflects historical survival challenges, including climate changes and disease exposure. These experiences shaped biological responses that improved adaptation. Understanding genetic diversity helps explain physical differences and highlights Africa's central role in human evolution. Migration patterns across Africa played a key role in shaping Black African diversity. Ancient populations moved across deserts, forests, and savannas in search of resources and safety. These movements created cultural exchange and genetic mixing, strengthening adaptability. Migration also led to the formation of new communities with unique traditions and social systems. Environmental challenges forced people to develop survival strategies, including new farming techniques and social cooperation methods. Over time, these movements produced diverse cultural identities and regional differences. Migration contributed to language development and technological innovation. It also strengthened social networks across regions. Understanding migration history explains why African cultures are diverse, yet connected by shared ancestral roots. Cultural traditions preserved ancestral identity and reinforced social unity. Storytelling, music, dance, and rituals transmitted values and historical memory. These traditions taught moral lessons, community responsibility, and respect for elders. Cultural ceremonies marked life stages and reinforced identity. Artistic expression preserved symbolic meaning and historical knowledge. Through generations, these practices maintained cultural continuity despite external influence. Today, traditional customs continue to influence modern African culture and strengthen ancestral connection. Spiritual beliefs connected communities with ancestors and natural forces. African spirituality emphasized balance, harmony, and moral responsibility. Rituals honored ancestral spirits and reinforced social values. These practices provided emotional support and psychological strength. Spiritual traditions guided decision-making and community leadership. Even today, ancestral spirituality influences cultural identity and personal values, maintaining a strong link between past and present. Oral history has been the backbone of preserving African ancestral knowledge for thousands of years. Before written records became widespread, communities relied on elders and storytellers to pass down historical events, cultural norms, moral lessons, and practical knowledge about survival and society. These oral traditions included folk tales, proverbs, songs, genealogies, and ceremonial speeches that conveyed complex wisdom in a memorable and engaging way. Through oral history, African societies maintained a sense of continuity, connecting younger generations with the experiences, struggles, and achievements of their ancestors. This practice ensured that knowledge about leadership, governance, agriculture, health, spirituality, and ethics was not lost over time. Oral history also fostered social cohesion, as community members collectively remembered and celebrated their heritage. Storytelling became an educational tool, teaching values such as bravery, honesty, cooperation, and respect. Additionally, oral history allowed for the adaptation of lessons to local environments, making knowledge practical and culturally relevant. This method also preserved the diversity of African languages, dialects, and expressions, strengthening the cultural identity of each community. Even in modern times, oral traditions continue to influence African music, literature, theater, and education. By understanding oral history, we gain insight into how African societies maintained resilience, knowledge, and cultural richness over centuries. It reveals that the differences observed among Black Africans today are deeply connected to the careful preservation and transmission of ancestral wisdom. Without oral history, many unique aspects of African identity, including social structures, ethical codes, and spiritual understanding, might have been lost or fragmented. Thus, oral history is not only a record of the past, but a living tool that continuously shapes African identity, reinforcing why Black Africans are distinct, according to ancestral history. Africa is home to thousands of languages, each reflecting a unique ancestral lineage and cultural identity. Language diversity is a key factor in understanding why Black Africans are different, as it carries the memory, history, and worldview of each community. Through language, knowledge about agriculture, medicine, spirituality, social norms, and survival strategies was passed down for generations. Dialects and linguistic patterns often correlate with historical migration, settlement patterns, and interactions between communities, preserving genetic, cultural, and social information. Indigenous languages also encode philosophical concepts, moral teachings, and communal values, reinforcing cultural cohesion. Many African societies used language not only for communication, but also as a tool for storytelling, rituals, music, and ceremonies, ensuring that history and tradition remained alive. The survival of these languages, despite colonization, globalization, and language suppression, demonstrates the resilience of African identity. Understanding language diversity provides insight into the complex ancestral networks that shaped modern Black Africans. It highlights how knowledge, culture, and identity are intertwined and why linguistic heritage remains central to the ancestral story. Language also facilitated trade, alliances, and cultural exchange, strengthening intercommunity connections. This rich linguistic tapestry underlines the importance of ancestral roots in shaping differences among African populations. Modern African identity, with its vibrant languages, accents, and expressions, continues to carry these ancestral imprints, showing that the variations observed today are deeply rooted in historical and cultural continuity. Black Africans developed unique survival traits through centuries of environmental adaptation across diverse landscapes, from the deserts of the Sahara to tropical rainforests, savannas, and highlands. African populations learned to thrive under challenging conditions. These adaptations influenced physical traits such as skin pigmentation, body structure, and heat regulation, as well as cognitive and behavioral skills like problem-solving, endurance, and resourcefulness. Communities developed agricultural techniques, water conservation methods, and tools for hunting and gathering that ensured survival. Environmental pressures also encouraged social cooperation, leadership structures, and communal resource-sharing practices. Adaptation to disease, climate variation, and ecological challenges strengthened genetic resilience, which remains evident in modern Black African populations. Cultural practices, diet, and lifestyle were also shaped by the environment, integrating practical survival strategies into daily life and social norms. Ancestral knowledge about medicinal plants, weather patterns, and animal behavior was essential for survival and was passed down through generations via oral history and rituals. Understanding environmental adaptation demonstrates how differences among Black Africans are rooted not only in biology, but also in culture, knowledge systems, and ancestral wisdom. These traits, honed over millennia, illustrate a complex interaction between nature, heritage, and identity. They highlight why modern African communities continue to exhibit unique resilience, resourcefulness, and cultural richness, all of which are direct results of ancestral environmental adaptation. Social structures and community systems were fundamental in shaping African identity and why Black Africans are different according to ancestral history. African societies organized themselves around kinship, clans, and extended families, which created strong social cohesion and collective responsibility. Leadership roles, conflict resolution, and decision-making were often shared among elders and community councils, ensuring that wisdom and experience guided society. Communal living encouraged resource sharing, mutual aid, and cooperation, which strengthened survival and resilience. Social hierarchies were flexible, often based on merit, contribution to the community, and ancestral lineage rather than rigid class systems. Ceremonial roles and cultural responsibilities were inherited or earned, reinforcing social cohesion and continuity. These structures allowed knowledge, values, and traditions to be passed down efficiently, preserving identity and ensuring stability across generations. Festivals, communal labor, and public gatherings reinforced unity and celebrated shared history. Through these community systems, African societies maintained harmony, resilience, and cultural pride despite environmental challenges and external pressures. Understanding these social systems explains why African populations developed unique problem-solving skills, adaptability, and collaborative behaviors that remain evident today. These ancestral social frameworks fostered psychological strength, emotional intelligence, and a sense of belonging, highlighting how historical community organization directly contributes to the distinctive characteristics of Black Africans. By studying ancient social structures, we gain insight into the origins of collective identity, leadership principles, and community-oriented values that continue to define African societies. The diet and lifestyle of African ancestors significantly influenced why Black Africans are different according to ancestral history. Traditional diets were based on locally available foods, including grains, legumes, fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins from hunting, fishing, and pastoralism. These diets provided essential nutrients that promoted strong physical development, endurance, and immune resilience. Seasonal and regional variations in diet encouraged knowledge of agriculture, animal husbandry, and food preservation, which were passed down through generations. Lifestyle factors, including active daily routines, communal labor, and participation in ceremonies, contributed to physical fitness, mental agility, and social cohesion. The integration of diet and lifestyle with cultural practices ensured that survival strategies were not only practical but also reinforced communal values and spiritual beliefs. Ancestral knowledge about medicinal plants, food preparation, and nutrition strengthened health outcomes and passed on longevity-enhancing habits. This combination of diet and lifestyle created a holistic system of well-being that influenced both physical and psychological traits. These ancestral practices shaped endurance, adaptability, and overall resilience, which continue to distinguish Black Africans today. Recognizing the impact of diet and lifestyle highlights the interconnection between environment, culture, and biology in African history. It also shows how ancestral habits laid the foundation for unique traits, including strength, stamina, and mental fortitude, which remain part of modern African identity. Traditional African knowledge systems played a crucial role in shaping why Black Africans are different according to ancestral history. Indigenous wisdom encompassed medicine, agriculture, astronomy, craftsmanship, governance, and environmental understanding. Communities passed this knowledge orally and through practice, ensuring that every generation learned survival strategies, ethical values, and cultural practices. Herbal medicine, for example, provided natural remedies for common illnesses, while agricultural knowledge ensured food security in diverse climates. Craftsmanship and architecture reflected technical skill and cultural aesthetics, preserving the values of balance, symmetry, and sustainability. Knowledge of celestial movements guided farming, navigation, and rituals, linking spiritual and practical life. Indigenous wisdom also emphasized social harmony, conflict resolution, and community ethics, strengthening unity and cooperation. Through these systems, Black Africans developed cognitive flexibility, problem-solving abilities, and resilience, all of which remain visible today. This ancestral knowledge preserved cultural continuity, reinforced identity, and created a framework for psychological and social development. Understanding traditional African knowledge systems highlights the depth of African intellectual heritage and its role in shaping the unique traits and strengths of Black Africans. These practices demonstrate that differences are not only biological, but also intellectual and cultural. Rooted in centuries of accumulated ancestral wisdom, ancient kingdoms and empires shaped Black African identity through political organization, culture, and economic development. Kingdoms such as Mali, Songhai, Kush, Aksum, and Great Zimbabwe established administrative systems, trade networks, and education that spread knowledge and culture across regions. Leaders promoted justice, social order, and ethical codes, which strengthened collective identity. These empires encouraged innovation in architecture, writing, art, and religion, reinforcing cultural pride and continuity. Trade and diplomacy fostered connections between communities, blending traditions and technologies while maintaining ancestral roots. The wealth, stability, and governance of these empires enabled education and preservation of history through oral and written records. This historical influence created strong cultural identity, resilience, and social cohesion, shaping how Black Africans perceive themselves today. Kingdoms and empires instilled a sense of belonging, pride, and achievement, which continues to resonate in modern African societies. Understanding their influence explains how political and cultural systems contributed to the differences, strengths, and adaptability of Black Africans across generations. Art, symbols, and ancestral expression were vital in communicating values, beliefs, and history. African societies used masks, sculptures, paintings, and textiles to record events, honor ancestors, and convey spiritual ideas. Symbols encoded cultural norms, ethical teachings, and cosmological understanding, serving as both educational and ritual tools. Ceremonies incorporated dance, music, and performance to strengthen community bonds and transmit knowledge. Artistic expression reflected social hierarchy, historical events, and collective identity, linking individuals to ancestral heritage. By engaging in artistic traditions, African communities preserved memory, creativity, and innovation, influencing cognitive development and social cohesion. Understanding art and symbolism demonstrates how Black Africans express identity, spirituality, and historical continuity. It shows that differences are not only biological or environmental, but also cultural and symbolic, deeply rooted in ancestral history. Modern science confirms that African populations exhibit the highest genetic diversity in the world. Studies show that genetic variation is greater within African populations than between African and non-African populations, reflecting the continent's role as the birthplace of humanity. This diversity influenced adaptation to various environments, disease resistance, and physical traits. Genetic research provides evidence for ancestral migration, evolution, and survival strategies that shaped African identity. Understanding genetic diversity highlights the biological foundation behind why Black Africans are different. It also reinforces ancestral history, showing how biology, environment, and culture intertwine to create distinctive traits. African ancestral history instilled psychological resilience and emotional strength, survival in challenging environments, social cohesion, and cultural traditions cultivated adaptive thinking, problem-solving, and coping mechanisms. Oral traditions, storytelling, and community rituals reinforced values such as courage, perseverance, and unity. Spiritual practices promoted mental well-being, providing purpose and hope during adversity. This ancestral foundation created enduring mental toughness, collective identity, and emotional intelligence that continues to distinguish Black Africans today. Recognizing this heritage explains behavioral traits, resilience, and the capacity to overcome challenges across generations. Colonialism disrupted African societies but could not erase ancestral identity. European colonizers imposed foreign systems, languages, and borders, attempting to suppress cultural practices and knowledge systems. Despite these challenges, Africans preserved ancestral traditions through oral history, art, spiritual practice, and community solidarity. Resistance, adaptation, and cultural preservation strengthened communal identity and reinforced pride in ancestral heritage. Colonial history illustrates both the external pressures faced by Africans and the enduring influence of ancestral roots on identity, resilience, and cultural continuity. Modern Black African identity continues to reflect ancestral roots in culture, spirituality, social values, and knowledge systems. Music, language, clothing, rituals, and art carry forward traditions that connect communities to their history. These ancestral connections influence behavior, beliefs, and interpersonal relationships. Even in urbanized or globalized settings, Africans maintain continuity with the past, blending ancient wisdom with modern life. Recognizing these connections explains cultural diversity, psychological resilience, and social cohesion. Modern identity is therefore a living reflection of ancestral heritage, explaining why Black Africans are distinct in personality, values, and collective memory. Ancestral history teaches essential lessons about resilience, adaptability, creativity, and unity. African ancestors survived environmental challenges, developed advanced societies, and preserved culture despite external pressures. Their achievements and knowledge continue to influence modern Africans. Understanding these lessons highlights why Black Africans possess unique cognitive, social, physical, and cultural traits. It reinforces pride in heritage and a sense of shared identity across generations. Ancestral history reveals that Black Africans are different because of deep-rooted biological diversity, cultural continuity, spiritual practices, and historical adaptation. From survival strategies to artistic expression and social systems, every aspect of African life reflects ancestral knowledge and resilience. These differences are a product of thousands of years of evolution, culture, and history, creating unique traits that persist in modern societies. Understanding this history fosters appreciation, respect, and awareness of the complexity and richness of African identity. Black Africans' distinctiveness is not random but deeply rooted in a legacy that continues to shape communities, behavior, and cultural pride today.